Hey guys, how you doing? Uncle Steph here. So, passive income. I'm going to talk about this in this video. I've been doing these passive income strategies for a long time now, for decades in fact. So, I'm going to tell you my story about a couple things I've done. Hopefully we'll give you some ideas. But more importantly, I'm going to give you some principles, some techniques, some tactics to implement so you can identify your own passive income opportunities that are out there today in 2025. Things change over time, right? What worked 20 years ago or 25 years ago when I started doing these things may not work today in terms of the specifics, but the principles are true. Let's just jump into it. So passive income is basically some sort of business where you set it up and you basically can set it and forget it. Now there is a gray zone in that, right? Some passive income is totally touchless. You just set it, forget it, and you're making money. Other passive incomes, you may have to do a little bit. So I've had both. I've had passive incomes where I set and forget it. I've had others where there's light touch, an hour a week or something, and it makes me substantial income. So I'm going to give you a couple of things I stumbled across. And one passive income stream that I started over 20 years ago, to this day, it makes me money, and I haven't looked at it for 20 years. It's freaking strange to me. Now, this passive income stream, which I did, it used to make much more. Over the decades, it's gone down by more than half, but still, 20 years, over 20 years later. And I just realized actually recently that I still had this thing going in a substantial number because I was forced due to recent changes in the U.S. law. I do a lot of business in the U.S. I'm from Canada. I had to start tracking my sales by state. So anyway, long story short, I to my amazement in analyzing my inflow of earnings for the business, I said, holy Jesus, that passive income there is still making me money after 20 years, well, over 20 years now. All right, let's go way back in time, back in the mid-90s. I say 1996, I guess 97. We're touching on late 1990s a little bit. Anyway, so go back in time, and at this point in time, I had sold out of my first business, which had nothing to do with tech. It was the import-export business, dry line of products for the pet industry. Also used to redistribute frozen food for, again, all in the pet industry for other companies. Yeah. Anyway, so I sold out of that, and I became a freelance developer. I started writing code in 94 for my own site, and then I got my first job as a contractor building a website for a legal firm, yada, 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 Bob Strunkel. So anyway, we're in 96. No, we're in 97, 98, and I'm starting to look at, after having done like 3-4 years of consulting full-time as a freelancer, I decided to start looking at other opportunities, right? And I hadn't never considered the passive income thing. You got to remember, this is very early days of the web. Anyway, so what I started to do, I started to write articles about software development on my killersites.com and others. Yeah, my dates are a little mixed up. I think maybe that was in 99. Anyway, whatever. So I started looking around at different things to do because I had done development for several years at this point. And I was doing a lot of code writing from 96 until, this was 96 until 2000, 99. So I started exploring my alternate streams of income. I was looking for passive income. So one of the things I did is I built a SaaS product. I built a dating site, an online dating site, and I had it was small, but I had 17,000 members and people were paying. So it was pretty passive because you just have to maintain the software, and the software is pretty stable. So I had that for a little while. So that's one thing. So you can build a piece of software, but that's complex. There's a lot easier ways to actually generate passive income. The second thing to do is to have long-term affiliate programs, and you build content around that. So when AdSense first came out, Google's AdSense, I started writing articles on the web And I didn't know how I was going to monetize it, but then AdSense comes out, and I start monetizing my articles. So you just basically put the Google ads on the site. And at the time, this was brand new. So I used to get really big click money, right? I would get a click on an ad. I would make $1, $2, something like that, because there was no competition at the time. That's a rule of business, by the way. You want to get into industries where it's new, where there's no competition or little competition. So yeah, so I started doing the click money stuff, and I remember that was the joke. I used to make my money on clicks. So I write articles, put the Google ads, make money on the clicks, and it was paying a lot of bills. It was unbelievable, and it was semi-passive because once you put up an article, I could write an article, crack one out in 20 minutes, boom, bang, boom. I knew how to write, and Bob's Your Uncle, I'm making money with Google AdSense. So anyway, we used to call it click money. So I remember I was traveling around in Europe with a friend of mine, and this whole click money thing was kind of a new thing for me. So I'm sort of a digital nomad, and brought my laptop, and I publish an article once a week or something like that, put it on my blog, my site. And then the click money would come in, and I get my little click money ads, and it was great. We used to call it click money. And whenever I go to a restaurant to buy something, I say, "Hi, how many clicks is this going to cost me?" It's a pretty expensive burger. It's going to cost me 10 clicks, that kind of thing. So that went on for a while. That was passive, semi-passive, right? I write 1 or 2 articles a week. For me, writing is fun. That's a rule of business, by the way. Find something that's fun. If it's fun, it doesn't feel like work. And when you inevitably hit some roadblock in whatever it is you're doing in your business, as long as you're having fun with the whole business, you can deal with the roadblocks. But if you're in a business that you're just in it for the money, and it's not too fun for you, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. It's going to be very difficult. So yeah, I know it's a cliche, I guess, now, but yeah, make sure it's fun. Now, when you're choosing your business, I'm going off on a tangent. I'll get back to the passive income in a second. But when you're choosing a business, don't just choose something that's fun for you. Like, you may love, I don't know, playing Call of Duty, but that's probably not a good business. You may like playing guitar, but it's probably not a good business. So you got to find a happy medium, a marriage between something you like and something that people want to buy from you, whether it's a product or service. Anyway, back to passive income. So I had the click money. I had the dating site. They were very light touch. They weren't pure passive, but they were pretty passive because it required very little work. And I really liked, I liked what I was doing. So let me jump into it. So after having written a bunch of articles, getting a bunch of traffic, I used to get a couple million page views a month at one point on my main sites, at killer sites. It was pretty substantial, especially in those days and technology oriented, right? I'm not writing about celebrity gossip here. It was technology articles. Anyway, so I was looking for another avenue. So I had tons and tons of people coming to my sites to learn how to build a website, and a lot of them were small business owners. Anyway, so I was approached by, of all people, GoDaddy Hosting. Oh, let me back up. Before I did that, in the late 90s, I was hosting. I had an ADSL line, one of the first in Canada, with 12 static IPs. Remember back in those days, I used to get, static IPs, anybody who does any hosting knows those are valuable because they're limited. So I had 12. And I remember at the time I was spending $500 a month, which in today's money would be about $800. And I had a server, an NT4 server, and then a Windows 2000 server when we hit 2000. And it was in my closet. And an APC battery backup hooked up to it, and I was hosting people's websites. And that was a business I was trying to decide, do I want to grow this business? Now, the problem with the hosting, it's not passive. Because you got to do tech support, and at those times, people would be like, my email's not working, and 3/4 of the time was because of them, not because of your server. So it was good because it was easy money, but on the other hand, it was a headache because you never knew when the hardware was going to fail, the line was going to go down, if you're going to get tech support calls. I didn't like that too much. The hosting business can be a great business if you scale it properly and you put in automation and so forth. I do promotions for hosting companies now. Anyway, so I had this hosting business. So then I was approached by GoDaddy. I believe I was approached them. They were starting this reseller program. So I said, oh, okay. And it was a white label reseller program, meaning I could put my brand on it, my name. I used to care about that at that time. And then I could resell. I said, okay, cool. So that's what I did. I did it, boom. And basically what I got with their affiliate program, I got 25% of the take. So if they were doing $10 a month hosting, $5 was, $250 was sent to me. And you may be saying to yourself, why, that's not a good deal? Oh, it's a very good deal. Because I didn't have to do phone support. I didn't have to do anything. I just put up the site. I had to skin it using their skinning tool so it looked like my site. And Bob's your uncle. Off to the races, no headaches. Anyway, so this started building, and I would promote it. And I promoted it for a couple of years. I would just keep writing my articles, getting my click money, doing with the AdSense. And then I started actually producing. So I saw people wanted to learn from my articles. So I started looking at doing online video courses. I did a lot of online tutorials written. So I started exploring the video idea. This is all brand new at it, by the way. Now courses and tutorials and video. This is all like nothing. But back in the day, I was one of the pioneers in that. Anyway, so passively. This hosting business started growing and growing and growing. Where I shut down my actual hosting business, I didn't want the headaches, and I put everybody onto the GoDaddy affiliate, which was a white label for me. And it just built and built and built and built. And so I don't know. Money started just coming in. Now it was never big money. It was always like kind of a little like icing on the cake for me. Anyway, so within a period of time, and to be honest, this started just over 20 years ago, so I forget the details, but at some point, I was bringing in about 25,000 a year from this hosting passive income business, and I literally did nothing, like zero, nothing. It was great. And this just kept coming in. It kept coming in. So it's like, you understand, at that time, this is probably equivalent of like $45,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, something like that. And I lived, I'm a young guy. I had my nice place, my little apartment. I was pretty happy. I lived on like, at the time, like 10, 15 grand, maybe. And I was very comfortable. I did what I want, traveled where I want. Things were a lot cheaper back then. You always got to adjust for inflation. So yeah, that was it. So that was like kind of my social security. I called it that for many years. This is like social security for me. Just money kept coming in. And over time though, I noticed like, 8 years into it, I noticed, hey, the sales, my percentages, it's going down. I'm making a little bit less, because I wasn't pushing it anymore. Which I think was a mistake in retrospect. I should have kept pushing it for instead of pushing it for 2-3 years, basically talking about it in articles, I should have just kept pushing it for like 5, 7, 8 years. Anyway, I didn't, but whatever. So it started going down. So recently, this is 20 years ago this all started, more than 20. Again, I was doing a review of my income streams from the U.S. by state. So I never looked at it, And I noticed that, holy Jesus, after over 20 years, this thing still brings me in about 13,000, 14,000 a year. Listen, I'm not, it's not a lot of money, but it's like 13,000, 14,000 a year doing nothing from 20 years ago. That still freaks me out. Anyway. So that's probably although not even close to being the big earner, but it's my most awesome passive income. experience because it was totally touchless. Once I got it going, I just had to do nothing. I think I should start promoting again. All right, let's talk about some principles of passive income that I can deliver to you. So, the thing about passive income, typically from my experience, I've done it a few times. I'm forgetting another one I did. Anyway, is that the thing about passive income is that you got to set it up. There is a set up period where you have to put into it where you're not getting much. You have to expect that. So it's a good side hustle that you contribute to over time, step by step. So it starts building and building and building. So today, would I do the hosting today? Maybe. There's a lot more competition, though. It's going to be much more difficult. You have to have a voice. That's the principle number 2. With a lot of these passive income opportunities, it comes down to really good marketing. So you have to get good with the social, with the cameras and all this stuff. You got to get good. Now, the great thing is that the equipment now, you don't have to spend stupid money like I do on all this stupid expensive cameras and mics and stuff. You can do it with your phone. Get an iPhone 12 and up and just set up those scenes properly. You can do fantastic. So, yeah. So you have to understand there's a front weighting, if you will, of the work required to build your passive income business. So you may have to promote it on the side as a side hustle for a few years before it really starts taking off. You may get it faster. I don't know. The avenues I would use, it depends on the avenues, of course, is social media now. Social media. You need a site, probably. It's like a place, a home, so people kind of feel confident about what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you need a site. At the end of the day, you need to do a lot of social media just to get your presence out there. Now, maybe YouTube, and maybe Instagram, maybe TikTok, depending on the type of content and the type of passive income product or service that you want to promote. I would look at today in 2025, I would look at like what you can do with big networks like the Shopify. Shopify is an option. Maybe Wix has some stuff up there. They got I think they have a market where you can put up products for sale and so forth. Shopify, maybe there might be some WordPress equivalents as well. Now, what exactly that you're going to do, I don't know. Like, I would not, if you start, like, for example, you want to do T-shirts and stuff, I don't think that's a race to the bottom unless you have a really strong brand, right? Don't try to sell generic product with your logo on it. Unless you're like a pop star or something where you got people who want to follow you, don't do it. I've had people in my mentoring community, strangely enough, in my coding mentoring community, decided that they're going to start selling T-shirts. Never worked. I told them it's probably not going to work. You gotta have a brand. You gotta, anyway. So you gotta find some sort of product or service that you don't have to warehouse crap in your home. Meaning you don't have products that have to ship out, because that's not a passive income business anymore. That's work. You got to carry inventory. You want to find a business where, like, drop shipping is classic, Amazon drop shipping. I wouldn't necessarily get into that now because everybody's neighbor is doing drop shipping, right? Unless, again, you build up a big following. If you have a big following on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and people would want to buy your merch and buy product from you in that regard, sure. Now, you have to find something that doesn't require you having to invest money into it besides the initial setup, and the initial setup cost should be minimal. And you don't want anything where you have to ship product and support it or anything like that, because it's no longer passive, it's an actual business. So you can look at, just like I did with the hosting thing, just look at affiliate programs where it's ongoing. A lot of hosting companies, by the way, they'll pay you out. If you refer to somebody to host on their platform, they'll pay you out. It could be $50, it could be $150, depending per client, depending on the level of hosting that they get. But that's the problem with that. You're not getting the recurring revenue. What I did with the GoDaddy thing is I got 25% forever for the life of the client. That's much better. You don't get that big payout at first, but hosting is an interesting business. It's kind of like banking. Once people are in a particular bank, the chance of changing your bank account, it's very rare because it's just such a pain. Same thing with hosting. It's such a pain. Like I have a situation now where I use a VPS to host my commercial sites, and I could get something cheaper now. I could probably save $30-40 a month, but it's like, oh my God, the time, the time to do that. It's like, I forget. It's not worth it. It would cost me, it'd probably be like a 10-hour job to move everything. And my time is, it would take 50 years of savings to make up for that lost time. So no, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, so you could look at affiliate programs. That might be an option. Try to get affiliate programs where you find a product or service that the client is buying. You find a product or service where there is auto renewals and you get a piece of those renewals. So I know somebody who has a cosmetics distribution business, and I believe that's what they do. They basically middle manufacturers where women, they order these products on a regular basis. It's almost like it's a subscription. So they refer the client to us, and on a monthly basis, they get a cut. So, if you have a business like that, an affiliate business where you're representing some other brand and you're selling the product and you're just, generating the leads, sending them the leads, and you get a cut of every sale that client brings to the manufacturer. That's cool. It's pretty much touchless, right? Once the client is established, you don't have anything to do. But you can probably make a lot more money if you start doing stuff in-house, right? But that's setting up a business. That's not passive again. So there you go. That's the story. You want to look at Shopify, see if there's any opportunity there. Platforms like Wix, and there's other platforms where you want to try to find a product or service where there's a recurring revenue, and you get a piece of that recurring revenue. There you go. That's pretty much my best suggestions for passive income. You could also do what I did. You could develop SaaS products like Studio Web, which is my educational product, but that's an actual SaaS business. SaaS is software as a service. I've had hundreds and hundreds of schools use my software over the years. Thousands to teach kids how to code, and it has a lot of classroom management features, and that's kind of a set and forget thing too. When you're dealing with schools, they will typically renew automatically. So once you get the sale, when the sale is difficult, the buying cycle for any substantial purchases, anything like over $5,000, typically for a district. Anything under $5,000, it's pretty simple. Anything over $5,000, you got to go through the school board, and it's a lot of headaches. But anyway, once you're in, then for years and years and years, districts, once they're in, they would just send me an email with the PO, and I would just go, okay, boom, and then I would go click, and our classrooms were set up, and that's it. That's all it was. So that business for a long time, 14 years, it was very little work in terms of maintaining clients, but it was a hell of an investment in time and money to just get the product off the ground. There are much easier ways to do things. The same thing with the dating site. The dating site was, it was a passion project. It was a project of passion. Basically, I was just wanting to explore deeper into Java tech. So I said, I'll build a dating site. And so I built the dating site. It was like 98, 97. So I was still doing freelance consulting work as a developer. And so I decided on the side to start experimenting more with Java and use my Java framework I built. And I built my dating site. And to my amazement, people started joining it. It's pretty good. I used to call it Nick's Cafe. So back in the day, dating was online was kind of like embarrassing, believe it or not. So I said, if you join my dating site, it's going to be billed as Nick's Cafe. And I was transparent. So I said, this way, if somebody looks at your credit card statement, they're not going to say, I'm on Uncle Steph's Cousin Steph at the time. I'm on Cousin Steph's dating site, which you were a loser back then if you were on a dating site. Interestingly enough, people are realizing if you're on a dating site now, you're probably a loser too. It's just bad. It's just bad. For men and for women, especially men though. Anyway, and then, it would be Nick's Cafe. And that's how they would be billed. And the price was cheap. I was cheap. It was like $5 a month. At that time, equivalent, $8, $9 now. Still dirt cheap, right? About the price of an expensive coffee, a coffee with a scone or something, right? Anyway, so long story short, I had a bunch of people who joined that. And what was interesting, I found, is that it was on a subscription. So at one point I shut it down because my site got invaded by swingers. I didn't want to become the swinging coder, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to I'll tell that story another time if you want to hear it. So I shut it down like a moron. I should have kept it going and done something. Anyway, so I shut it down, but for months after, people were still paying me. And I was like, I didn't realize, people are still paying me for Nick's Cafe. And I think what happened, people just forget about it, right? And they don't bother canceling the payment because it's $4, $5, $4.99. They don't bother canceling the payment. So I had to go out of my way to cancel the payment. It was a real pain in the butt at that time for a bunch of people. Anyway, that was purely past. So even when the site was pretty much offline, people were still paying. I remember I had to dude, I don't know what I did. I think I had to email. Listen, the site's offline. Cancel this thing. Anyway, online payments back then were not easy as it is today. So I'm not saying you should set up a dating site either. Dating site is forget about it. That's super saturated. I would not do that now. But I'm just giving you some stories here to give you some ideas how to approach it. So for me right now, I would be looking at Shopify. Again, look for reseller programs where you have an ongoing piece of the client that they get. So the best was it made me the least money in a given year was the ultra passive hosting where I just got 25% of the gross on the hosting clients. It made me the least amount of money per year, but it's been 20 years where the other passive stuff, when they're long dead. This thing is still chugging along nicely, So yeah, you want to find something that's totally passive. You want to try to find some third party if it's respectable, that where you keep making a piece of the sale, even after you keep making a piece of the sale. So you want some reoccurring revenue from a client. So you bring in client A, you have a product and Uncle Steph buys that product and you want a subscription, Audible account. So maybe you resell Audible subs, I don't know. And you get a piece of that, but you want ongoing. You don't just want one payment. You want to try to find, ideally, although the one payment, could be good. But ideally, you want the recurring revenue affiliate programs. That's where you might see some money. So I don't know, check into that, Shopify, Wix, look around for vendors. And then your main focus at first is going to be, again, the marketing efforts. That's where the time is. Promoting it. And that means doing social media. These days. Maybe a website, but I think social media. Google's trying to figure out what's going to happen. What are they going to do because of AI and how many people are going to... I'm curious to see what the traffic is. I suspect that traffic to websites will drop considerably because of AI. The days of writing articles to gain traffic might be over or slowly dying out. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, AI makes the filtering and the access to information infinitely better than going to websites. So keep that in mind. Hey guys, I hope you found this video fun and interesting. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Let me know what you think about this video format. If you haven't been to my channel before, I'm Uncle Steph. This is actually my third channel. My main channel is purely on software development and coding, 270,000 subs there. My secondary channel is just kind of a hodgepodge. That is only 6K subs, and this I just started as I'm recording this video yesterday. So there you go. Let me know what you think about this content. If you do like the content, do the subscribe, that kind of stuff. It helps promote the channel, and I appreciate that. And ask me any questions, comments below. There's your opportunity since I'm launching this new site. You can ask me questions about anything I discuss in this video, anything about business. This is my pure business channel based on my now 36 years of being an entrepreneur. Put it this way, when I was an entrepreneur, my body fat percentage was far lower. When I first started as an entrepreneur, rather, my body fat percentage was much lower, and I had all my hair. So time goes by.